Quasar Emoto Sports.
What's up guys, Quasar here. In this video we are going to put together the CRF 150R kit. So you're going to get a box that looks just like this, and it will have all these wonderful parts in it. You're going to have the wire harness for the controller. You have your voltmeter. You have your map mode switches, your power and your map mode switch. You'll have a Suron version 2 throttle. This has the ball bearings inside there, and it's all waterproof, all sensor. It's a really nice throttle. And then we'll have the parts to the kits. Every bag contains the parts that go to that part of the bike. So like this bag has the hinge and the twist lock with the hardware in there. These are the spacers for the motor mounts with some zip ties for the wire harness. These are your swing arm bolt spacers. These are the blocks that go onto the bottom of the plate with the motor mount blocks that go to the swing arm. Your general hardware for the battery box. Motor bolts and nuts. Everything in here is stainless steel. We have the brake adapter to get the brake to work. We use a Heim joint with a spacer to get that, that brake pedal out just a little bit from the motor. We've got some aluminum angle blocks for the battery tray. Got some blocks for the battery tray where we put the side panel on, and these are the tabs that hold the battery into the frame. Got some pretty cool stickers. A couple Electro and Co stickers. A couple Quasar Emoto Sport stickers. We have our battery plug here. Inside these we have our kit parts. So we open these up. This kit is the carbon fiber version, so got a carbon fiber cover there. That's the battery, left-hand battery side. This is our hinge side. In here, we have the top part for the battery. I call it the battery top ladder. Alright. Next we have the base plate for the battery tray. And we have the motor mounts. And everything's packed in here nicely so it can't get scratched and it can survive shipping to your door. There's a motor mount for one side. A motor mount for the other side. The motor, the controller, and the grips are going to show up in a separate box, and the battery will also be in a separate box. So we're going to go ahead and clean this up, and I'll show you how to put it all together. Alright, go ahead and grab your motor. This is the V2 of the V3. This has got the different end cap here, so it's a different hall sensor cap. This should have heavier duty bearings, the whole nine. One thing that I did not know is that they added this bolt here, which is good, but for me, it's not that great because I had to change the design on the motor mounts. So I had to take my die grinder and make that notch there. I'll have that in on the new CAD designs, so you don't have to worry about that. So what you want to do with this newer motor, this normally just sets right on. It's got a tab here that wasn't there before, and it's got this, so you kind of set this under the tab, like so, lift that up, and then that fits right on there just like that. Go ahead and grab your motor mount bolts here. You'll notice that you have the cap head ones, and we are going to do 2 of these on either side. I've included some Loctite, the blue Loctite. You're going to want to make sure that you Loctite these. You know, they will back out with vibration or just over time. So one of these goes in each of these holes here. And then you're going to go ahead and come in your motor mount box and grab one of these all thread. It's all stainless steel cap head. And go ahead and toss one through on that side there. Alright. Tighten these down just gently because this is going back in the box to the customer. I'll just set that in there nicely. Go ahead and flip your motor to the other side. Hold that cap screw from coming out. Grab your other mount. This one is thinner on the bottom and it doesn't come out as far to be able to follow the contour of the motor. Now, Let's hope that they didn't change anything on the back. We're about to find out right now. And we got lucky. Perfect. So you're going to go ahead and grab the same two cap head screws that we did on the other side. These ones here. Get that back where it's supposed to be. And put them in there and there. And luckily they haven't changed the casting apart from the front cover. So that is good news for us because we don't have to redesign a bunch of stuff. I'm happy about that. We're just gonna loosely put this on. A quick tip, and I'm gonna tell you this probably a couple times throughout the video, don't tighten everything down until all your bolts or nuts are in. You want everything to be in the holes where they're supposed to be before you tighten anything down. I machined all this stuff with a little extra room all around, just in case. That way things can fit together nicely. Parts move around. Even on these casted motors, I've noticed that these rear mounts sometimes are offset a tad bit. Also, the frames, I mean, they do use jigs when they make these frames, but they can be a millimeter or two off from time to time. And it's a good idea to make the bolt holes just a tiny bit larger so you can accommodate for that, because you never know. You'd hate to get a kit that does not fit and have to actually do some work on it. So I'm not going to tighten these down too much, just enough to hold it in place. Okay, I'm going to flip this back up and set it to the side for now. Here comes the fun part. Grab your battery tray, the bottom of it. Now I don't finish this side because the battery's going to slide in and out, and honestly it just hurts my brain to make something pretty and slide a battery in and out, and it's going to just tear it up anyway. So we're going to go ahead and start with this. The first thing we'll do is we'll attach our box. So these are the blocks that go to the motor. These are machined out of 1/2-inch aluminum and they're tapped. And you'll see that there's these two sets of holes here that are closer together. You want to put the machine faces on the outside because you're going to see those, and the non-machine faces on the inside because you're not going to see those. Grab your bag of general hardware. I tried to make everything pretty much the same screw size or bolt size. That way it's pretty easy to put together. Not to mention I'm using pretty beefy stuff, so everything's pretty much over-engineered, so you're not going to need to go crazy with it. Alright, and remember, again, Loctite. So I'm going to go ahead and put these in here. And I'm just going to do everything loose. You don't want to put everything super tight just yet. The thing is, if you're doing this with Loctite, you don't really have time to do all that. So you kind of want to get everything together that's going to be permanent with the Loctite first, and then you'll do all the other stuff last. So these are going to be permanent. Those are not going to move. So go ahead and tighten those down real tight with the Loctite, and that'll be fine. I'll let you guys know what can and can't be permanently fixed the first time. That way you don't have to go back and do it again and re-Loctite everything. All right. This next one in here. Oh, you know what? I don't know how that screw got in there. I have a couple different types. I get these really nice hardware, the THE, and it says A270. These just have the writing on them. And I also got some other hardware that does not. These are higher quality in my opinion, so everything's going to be these. You'll notice that they match now. Alright, Minecraft did that to me. I played too much Minecraft. Everything has to be proportional, has to match. Yep, thank you Minecraft. Alright, the very next thing we're going to do is these are the blocks that hold the battery side panels on. There are 3 of them. You'll notice that those are not machined either. They're not pretty. You'll never see them, so there's no point. So there are holes on the inside and holes on the outside. You want the holes on the inside, and this is very important too. We don't want to tighten these things up right away. We want to tighten everything up once we get the side plate on, so we're going to do that all together. So go ahead and grab 6 of these M5 by 12 millimeter screws. And Loctite, don't forget the Loctite. Unless you want things rattling apart and coming loose and then causing damage. So all these are done on the CNC, so the holes are all drilled on the CNC. I have to tap them all by hand, but that means that they're very accurate, so you don't have to worry about these not lining up. However, once you have 6 screws in on this side and 6 screws in on the other side, even 1/2 of a millimeter will be felt, so we don't tighten anything down until we get to that point. Get everything on there. I think I did a pretty good job of tapping all this stuff and designing all this stuff, so it fits together really nice. This, I mean, I could put this kit in the bike in probably an hour. It'll probably take you guys a couple hours because it's your first time and you don't know where everything goes like I do. So we're gonna go ahead and get those just loose, just tight enough to have some wiggle but not fall out. All right, the next step is we're going to come over here and we're gonna grab our side plate. So there's 2 of these. One is taller than the other and does not have holes here or here. This is the left side and this is the side we're gonna put on here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get a few more of those right there. And we're gonna loosely put these in. Oop, it ran away. It does that. Let's see, there's another one of those silver ones without the writing. The writing's fancy, it looks cool. I'm all about aesthetics, that's for sure. So I love. And once you get 2 of these in, just get them in on the corners here. You can flip this thing up and it'll be a whole lot easier to do. All right, now that we've got those in, we can face it this way and get these all in and see everything goes together nicely when it's not super tight, because when you have more than 1 screw in something, oh, see, I put that one too tight. When you have more than 1 screw in something, they tend to move, and if they're not moved to where they should be, then it'll be a pain in the butt to get things in. You'll notice I had an issue there, and then now I don't. So that's nice. All right. I think we got one more left to do. Right here. And now is when you can tighten everything down. So I'm not going to tighten things down too much because I don't want to wear on the threads. And this is a customer's kit who's going to be getting it soon. So I'm just going to go gentle. Just finger tight for me. You guys are going to want to lock these down. This is one of those things where you can lock it down with a Loctite. It'll be in place permanently the first time. One of these handled T-wrenches or Allen hex wrenches, these things are really useful. I do have the power tool, which is amazing, but I figured it'd kind of be cheating if I just did that in the video. Try to do it like it's in real life. All right, so that's how that goes. That's the way that's designed. All right, the next step is going to be doing the other side. So we're gonna go ahead and grab the hinge. Just gonna be in this bag with the twist lock. There will be some hardware in here that we're going to want to grab. These are specific lengths because they have to clear here. So you want to grab the 2 M5s. You notice these are shorter than the other ones we have. There's 4 of them in there. 2 for the plate and 2 for the hinge. So go ahead and grab the 4 out. And we can go ahead and set these 4 pieces of hardware there, over here. We're going to grab our other carbon plate. Just go ahead and set it right there for now. And the hinge, this is a stainless steel marine hinge. These things are strong as hell. Yeah, so good stuff there. So the shorter ones are going to go into the carbon. Actually, whoops, wrong ones. These are the same size. That's on the lock there. All right. So we're going to go ahead and take these. You'll notice these don't have the letters because they have a smaller radius on the, or diameter on the head, which fits in this hinge better. The ones with the letters don't fit so well. So unless I want to grind a bunch of screws down on the lathe or whatever, then I just use these ones. So it's beneficial to do so. Okay, so this carbon is threaded. Carbon does hold threads pretty well, but it's not like metal. So you do not want to torque down on these too much. I still recommend that we use Loctite on these. It's a good idea. Remember, before you put that second one in, make sure this one's not all the way tight. And you will notice when we get to the latching system, those tolerances are very tight. and you can't just you can't put one tight and then put the other one in. It just won't work. You won't be able to get it. You have to put them both in slightly at first. And the reason why I did that is that latch is incredibly important, and it uses thinner hardware. Basically, these are M4, not M5. Those are M4 threads, and I figured if it was a tight fit in the screw holes, that it would press against the threads a little bit stronger and give you a little extra hold. So, yep, we got that on there. Let's go ahead and grab a different size Allen. We're gonna grab our twist lock. These are the heavy-duty stainless steel twist locks. I had to drill holes in these to make them M4 because they came with M3. But make sure that your latch is facing upwards. And again, we're going to want to use Loctite. So we have 2 different lengths in this. Right here we have, I believe those are 6mm. Yeah, probably 6mm M4s. Those are for the latch side that goes on here. That will go on the top ladder. And the shorter ones go through the carbon. We don't want these sticking through the carbon and touching the battery. I mean, it wouldn't hurt it, but there's no point in letting it scratch. So remember to Loctite these, and this is where we want to put just a couple threads in. Only a couple threads, because this is a tight fit. Don't screw it down all the way. Once you get a couple threads on this one, then you can start screwing them down. All right, so we'll go ahead and take that all the way down. Not tight though. Make sure we take that all the way down. Not tight quite yet. Go ahead and look at that. Make sure that it's nice and square with the top of that. And then tighten it down. Do not torque these down too tight. Not as tight as you would aluminum, because again, it's carbon fiber. It is strong, but it is slightly brittle. That's why the Loctite. And you'll notice that those are flush and those are flush, so that's really good. All right, now for the cool part. Well, actually, you know, let's put this hinge on the bottom plate first. The cool part is when we start attaching the CNC machine blocks. I just really like those things. They came out really pretty. All right, so go ahead and flip it over and place your hinge like so for now. And you'll grab your last 2. And again, Loctite. I'm gonna say it nonstop. If you don't use Loctite, your shit will rattle apart and you will be unhappy. So just slightly lift the plate up. And if you can do this better than me, yeah, there you go. All right, again, we don't tighten anything down until we have all the hardware in, and then we tighten things down. And be sure not to cross thread any of this aluminum. It's soft metal. If you cross thread it, you're screwed. You'll have to purchase a brand new plate, and you can't, on a lot of this stuff, do through bolts. You can't drill it out and put a bolt through because we have recessed hardware. So we have that attached now. And it's time for the cool part. This is my favorite part. In this bag, you will find 4 pieces. This is for in between the battery leads, so it's a little thinner. That's a battery tab. I call it the battery tab holder. And these are the machined tab holders. I just really like them. They're beautiful. Pain in the butt to make, and I do that here in the shop, obviously, but they are beautiful, and I'm proud to have made them. You know, I just started getting into the CNC machining stuff. You know, I built that CNC over there and dialed it in. This is my first one I ever did, and it was quite the process, so I'm proud to have completed that and been able to actually pull this off. So, okay, you just take one, and you'll notice there's 2 holes on the front of this side and 3 on this. And you want to make sure the machine surface is facing outwards, and Loctite, of course. And then don't go tight with that. We'll grab our next one, put it in, and once you have that in, then you can crank down on both of them. I'm not going to because I'm pulling this apart. Same thing with the front over here. All right. Make sure the machine surface is facing outwards. And notice everything goes together nice and easy. It was a major pain in the butt getting the tolerances right. And if your tooling isn't correct or the right size or set up right in your CAM software, then all your specs are going to be off and nothing's going to fit the way it's supposed to. So that was a challenge and a feat, being new to this. All right, so we got the front side on. Looks nice and pretty. that's what you're gonna see outside the bike. So it's gonna be pretty awesome. Let's go ahead and get the other side. So this side, let's set that down so it doesn't slam down. This side is going to have just 2 of these. All right. Machine face facing outwards, because that's what you're gonna see. Don't tighten down on the hardware until you have them all in. And I think I'm done being a broken record for that. So if you've been watching this far and you've gotten to this point, I'm pretty confident I've said it enough. Alright. Put the last one in. You know, I could make this video short and just skip straight to the point, but I prefer to bore you with my dialogue. So, you're welcome. It's fun for me. I got to get something out of this, huh? Alright. Now, we have that on. And the carbon fiber is just, I mean, beautiful stuff. You know, and when you mix black carbon fiber with brilliant CNC aluminum, it's fantastic looking. All right, so the next step, we'll go ahead and grab what I call the battery top ladder. I don't know why I call it that. It's just a way of knowing what I'm looking at when it's in a file. All right, we're gonna grab the last 4 pieces of hardware here. You'll notice that we have 4 holes here and 4 holes here. We're gonna just attach this, and the reason why I made this thicker is because I didn't want, if I made it thinner, it wouldn't have the mechanical advantage to resist the bending that can happen. So with the larger flat surface here, it just meets up with this front plate a lot nicer. So, all right, just nice and loose on that. Oh, make sure that's not cross-threading in there. Mucho importante. Yeah, some of these tolerances are very tight, and that is a good thing. Let's just do this one first. Oh yeah, and I broke my own rule. Don't tighten them down. That's why. Silly me. You don't want to tighten them down until they're all in. See? There you go. Perfect example of why you don't do that. I'm fumbling with this thing here. Alright. Come on, Manny. Get it in the hole. There it goes. Alright, now we've got them all in and we can tighten them up. You can tighten this one up fairly good. Don't put too much torque on it because it's aluminum. You know, so here we go. Isn't that pretty? I love the look. It just looks fantastic. Alright, so for one of the last steps on here, I'm going to take the hardware we have left from over here, and you're going to go ahead and, let's just go ahead and do this. Put this down. Let that set in. So you want this to face downwards. And the battery will touch that when you slide it in, but it'll pop right past it. And the reason why is because we need to get a really good clamping force on this when we go to close this. It's not so much the hinge that holds the pressure, it's the compression between this, the padding that's going to be in there, and closing the base of the hinge. So that's where it compresses on the battery. So the hinge strength is somewhat irrelevant because there's actually no forces on the hinge itself, or the latch strength is somewhat irrelevant because there's no real forces on the latch itself. Most of the forces are down here, which we have a strong hinge for that. So go ahead and tighten those down, and I know I said I wasn't going to say it, but Loctite. All right, so that should work rather nicely. All right, guys. The next step is going to be our little angles. So these angle blocks, they are, I believe, 8mm thick. It's a pretty strong and robust little system there. And I'm using these to hold this battery box on top of the motor mounts. So these take all the force from the battery along with these rear mounts here that go to the motor. So they need to be stout and strong. All right, so loosely put these in, and they're gonna go this way. So your countersunk side goes there, and then you have really nice nuts with a flange. And it doesn't matter which way, because these are the same dimension, whichever way you put it. These are gonna go on loose, just put them on finger tight for now. We'll tighten them up once we get them on the bike. I made the holes a little larger on this again for fitment, because things do move around. Not everything is perfectly the same, so it's really important to have a little bit of wiggle room. Now, it won't be wiggle room once it's tight, but to have a little bit of wiggle room for the different variances in frames, motors, and whatnot. I mean, the CNC machine kit, I can make it exactly the same every time. But casted stuff like this, it's not going to be exactly the same every time. You know, they cast them and then they tap the holes, they drill the holes after, and sometimes they're just not right. Like I said before, ran into a few of those 138s that had, I mean, just a millimeter or two, it was off, but when you have tight tolerances on your mounts, that does matter. So, all right, so we're gonna just, like I said, finger tight this, and that will be as such. All right. So now we can just go ahead and put this up here and latch that for there. Let's go ahead and grab our motor. And I'll set this on here as it's gonna go, but we're not gonna install it here. Just for visual purposes, we will be installing that into the bike before. The motor and the mounts will set into the bike first, and then after that's mounted down, then we'll set this tray on top. So, let's see. And this will just set down on there like so. Nice and steady. And then if you look right here, that lines up right there, and then those holes will line up there. So yeah, that is the battery box assembly. Works out really nice, and should do a really good job of holding your battery in there. Okay. All right, for this next step, we're gonna wanna grab the rubber that I've included in the kit. These have a double sticky on it. So go ahead and peel off the plastic. It's never easy, this stuff is a nightmare, but it does not come off either, so that's good. Make sure that your plate is clean, and then you want to center this piece of rubber in the tray and just push it down like so. Do the same thing with the other one, and again centered in between here and here, like it was centered in between these. And this is going to create a little bit of space that we need to get some clamping force when we hit that twist lock on the battery tray. So without this, the battery has a little bit of room to move in there, and I designed it as such to use foam or rubber or something like that to be able to get some clamping force on there, because the variances in sizes, you do not want to have everything perfectly machined to tolerance, because things changed. Battery boxes are slightly different sizes, and if I send one of those up to a person in a kit and it's slightly different size, then there's a problem. Another thing that I do recommend, so these do have a lip on the front here. We're gonna go ahead and grab a blade, and I like to just cut this at a taper so the battery doesn't catch when you slide it up on here. That makes a big difference in the fitment and getting the battery in and out. So let me grab the blade. It's pretty straightforward. Grab yourself a razor blade. Do not cut yourself, because that sucks. Angle it. You want the tip to touch the aluminum, and then just push. And then this will give you a slight ramp, and that will stop the battery from catching onto this. It doesn't have to be perfect, it doesn't have to be pretty, but it will really help out. you know, I would do this for you guys, but things take a lot of time and things are already tedious as hell for me. So maybe if you complain enough, I'll do it for you. But it's not something you can't do on your own, and it's pretty easy, so I figured you guys would not mind helping a brother out and just handling that for me. Not to mention I have to install that too. So there we go. It's got a nice little taper now, and the lucky guy getting this kit, it's already going to be done for him. You won't have to do it. So let me grab a battery and show you how all that works. I've got my old dusty trusty battery here. I'm gonna go ahead and wipe that off a tiny bit. And the battery goes in with the leads facing this way. So what we do, well, I'm gonna have to move this down to the edge and simulate it being in. Let me move my camera. All right, the battery will just slide in like this. Push it all the way in, like so. And now that we have that little bit of lift, it raises this, and when you go to hit that twist lock, it locks it down. Awesome. All right, last but not least, before we install this on the bike, there are two little pieces of foam squares that we want to install. You have a rectangular and a square. Go ahead and install the square piece here. And then just on this, right underneath the latch, I'm gonna go ahead and install your rectangular piece of foam right there. That gives a little extra pressure for holding the battery down. If in the future you notice your battery is getting a little bit loose in the box, you're gonna just have to replace the foam because it's worn. Again, things come in different dimensions, slightly off a millimeter or two here and there. So I'm assuming there will be some kind of variance in the slight variances in the battery box sizes that we're getting from Electro & Co. So you can play around with foam. Just make sure that the latch closes tightly, and foam up here, foam down here, and foam here makes all that happen. You can also put foam on this side. All right, so on the 150R swing arm, you're going to have your swing arm spacers in here, and you'll have these pieces in the end. You're going to need to tap these out. It's going to bring the seal with it. You can just put the seal back in. Just tap each of these out from this way, going this way with a hammer, and this will pop out, and then put the seal back in. On this side, we're going to run just the factory spacer. It's got the perfect offset. And this one right here is going to have to be slightly trimmed to where it has the same offset just like the factory spacer. So you're going to have to either take a grinder to this or whatever, but you're going to need to trim that down to where it has the same offset as the other side with the factory spacer going all the way through. Typically, the offset will look something like this, and then you have this piece in there. But with our kit, we need a little bit more width, so we're able to use the factory pieces, but we have to trim this one down. So just look at the offset you have. I believe it's like 2 millimeters. And just match that up. Make sure that you don't cut it too short though, or the spacer kit that I included will not fit properly. Alright, so the first thing we want to do in mounting the motor is go ahead and get the swing arm spacers in there. You have a 7 millimeter spacer on this side, a 72 millimeter spacer here. You want to mount these as such with this little impression here facing forward. Once you get that, we can go ahead and put the motor in. Do not tighten down the swing arm bolt just yet. Okay, once you have a nice dirty motor and dirty mounts, go ahead and set it inside the frame. You're going to want the mounts to go on the inside of the aluminum here. And you're going to grab yourself this flanged head hex bolt. It's got the teeth on it so it grabs. We're going to put it in the rear holes here where these meet. So we're going to go ahead and get those in first because those are the toughest. So we do that first. Make sure that these are on the inside facing out. That way you can get to the nut on the end to tighten it up, and these will grab. So you won't have to worry about holding something on the inside when you're tightening it, only at first until you can get it to where it squishes. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and we'll be right back. So I can pretty much guarantee you this is hands down going to be the toughest thing you do today on this build. If I can get my big ass hands in those tiny little spaces, so can you hopefully. If your hands are bigger than mine, then hope you got a 10-year-old laying around somewhere you can put to work and get his fingers in there. But go ahead and get those finger tight. Next we're going to do the lower bolts and the front ones with the spacers. Okay, so go ahead and get in your bag. You're going to want to get the 3/8 bolt, the 5/16, 2 more of these cap screws. You're going to have the 2 larger spacers and 2 smaller spacers. I have different diameters because it's my bike and I don't give a shit, and I'm too busy building your guys' stuff, so oh well. But the larger spacers go with the larger bolt. The smaller spacers go with the smaller bolt. We're gonna go ahead and do that first, and those are gonna go right here with the larger bolt up top and the smaller bolt at the bottom. And the spacers are gonna go just in between here. Just a quick tip, like I was telling you before, in order to get all the bolts in and get them all aligned, make sure your motor mounts are loose. The mounts going from the motor mount bracket to the motor itself, make sure all 3 of those are loose. There's 3 on each side. That way everything can slide into place and it gets into perfect alignment. I make the holes a little larger, so when you first put them on, they may not be in the correct spot. So we just loosen those up, get all the bolts for the entire mount in. Once they're in the correct spot, then we'll tighten them all down. All right, we're gonna get this lower bolt here in, and we will do these bolts next. All right, go ahead and grab your button head bolts with the flange nut on the end, and we're gonna go ahead and install them here. On the side with the sprocket, you'll find that we put a spacer, we put a small washer as a spacer in between the mount and the frame. So it's a 5/16 washer, it's included in the kit. Make sure that goes in between the frame and the mount here. You could do without it, but that little bit of gap annoys me, so I filled it with a washer. Anyhow, go ahead and install those, and then we can start tightening things up. All right, so now that we have all the bolts in everywhere, we're gonna make sure everything's loose, not even finger tight, less than finger tight. We're gonna make sure everything's loose. We're gonna go ahead and put the battery tray on top, and once we have the hardware in for that, which is just these 4 bolts here and the 2 back here, we're gonna go ahead and tighten everything up once we have all of our hardware fastened. That way all the holes are aligned, and then you can go ahead and tighten everything up. All right, in your bag you will find a long bolt. This is the longest one in your bag, and it will have a nut on the end. It's a 5/16 by 6-inch bolt, and that is gonna go right there. If it's giving you any trouble at all, just like anything else on this, loosen up these, make sure those aren't tight, and everything should fit together nicely. So it doesn't matter what it is. If it's anything and it's not going in like it should, loosen up everything around it, and everything should fit right in. All right, guys, now that we have every nut and bolt in place, we can tighten everything down, and it should cinch up perfect. So again, don't tighten anything down until everything is in place. Apart from the things that we built prior, those are never gonna move. We're not gonna undo them. So once everything's in place, cinch it all down, and we'll move on to wiring and controller. One really important quick tip, and don't take this lightly. Make sure you have a very nice set of Allen wrenches. If you use Harbor Freight or cheapos from Tractor Supply, you're gonna strip the wrenches, you're gonna strip the bolts. Especially with these bolts here, and the smaller ones. I mean, it's not a very big hex head, and if you use the cheap ones, they're just not gonna last. So get yourself a good set of Allen wrenches, because these things get pretty tight. We don't want to crank them too tight, but you also don't want to strip a bolt out and not be able to get it out. So good quality tools. If you're going to spend money on anything, just get a good set of Allen wrenches. I mean, even one of these Crescent's a good brand. These work fantastic. They're nice and hard. The cheaper ones aren't as hard, so they do not last. So yeah, do yourself that favor. There are 2 small modifications that need to be done to the frame and to the swing arm for this kit to bolt on. They're very minute. So if you can see right here where I'm pointing, there's a tab that comes out. It follows the profile of this, and it comes out. It can get close to the motor front casing. I don't like that. So what you want to do is you want to grind it down a bit, but leave a lip so it still holds the plastic in place on the chain guard. But grind it down so it doesn't come in contact with that. The only other thing you'll have to do is right here, there's a little tab up in the frame. Little tiny tab, and it holds like a wire or maybe a hose, something small. It's just a little tab. You go ahead and grind that off and everything will fit just nice. Installing the brake adapter is really quite easy. All you're going to do is take off the original clevis, go ahead and throw our Heim joint on there, take the provided hardware and push it through. Go ahead and tighten that up nice and tight. Put our spacer on, tighten her up, and you're ready to go. Alright, so on the 150R swing arm, you're going to have your swing arm spacers in here, and you'll have these pieces in the end. You're going to need to tap these out. It's going to bring the seal with it. You can just put the seal back in. Just tap each of these out from this way, going this way with a hammer, and this will pop out, and then put the seal back in. On this side, we're going to run just the factory spacer. It's got the perfect offset. And this one right here is going to have to be slightly trimmed to where it has the same offset just like the factory spacer. So you're going to have to either take a grinder to this or whatever, but you're going to need to trim that down to where it has the same offset as the other side with the factory spacer going all the way through. Typically the offset will look something like this, and then you have this piece in there, but with our kit we need a little bit more width, so we're able to use the factory pieces, but we have to trim this one down. So just look at the offset you have. I believe it's like 2 millimeters. And just match that up. Make sure that you don't cut it too short though, or the spacer kit that I included will not fit properly. The very last thing to do is to trim this front shroud about 1.5 inches below the hole. That way when you open the battery compartment, the tray clears. Alright guys, so this next part is a little challenging, but honestly it's so easy a caveman can do it. You're going to want to go ahead and pull off your subframe. Pull your airbox out of your subframe. You'll take your controller and take it on the sides with the heat sinks and put it on the front. Take a marker and trace around. If you look at this orientation here, you can see where it's at. You want to have that top bolt up in the corner here because it's the best place for it to grab. We only use 2 bolts. You can use more if you want, but good luck getting down there. It doesn't move with just the 2, but you want to trace out just the heatsink area. Just the heatsink area, and then go ahead and trim that out with a razor blade to where the controller fits in the box from the inside with the heatsink sinking out just like this. Once you have that done, then you can drill the holes for the controller, just these 2 up top right there. Once you get that done, then you can fit the controller in your box, fasten it, put it back in the subframe, and attach the subframe back to the bike. One last thing that you're going to want to do before you finish that up is you're going to need a hole. It's about 1.5 inches to get the phase wires through. And you're going to want to do it in the bottom corner of the box right here. So if you come to this side of the box, you'll notice that hole is right there in the bottom corner. There's a little crease in the box there. The hole's going straight up. That way your phase wires can come in from your motor and go straight up in your box. Alright guys, so the rest of the build is pretty simple. Go ahead and mount your controls, your power switch and your map switch. I like to mount my voltmeter right here with a zip tie. It's just more convenient that way. Throttle goes over here. Route the wires behind the number plate and over here. Throw a zip tie in between this point and the wires here. You can put a wire loom if you want, like I did here. Route them over here. Make sure that these wires are tucked inside the frame a bit like this so they don't get in the way of the fuel tank. Underneath the bolt over here, and then in the airbox make a little notch so the wires can fit in there flush. Drill a couple holes so you can throw a zip tie through there so you can hold on your power plug. One thing to note, the harness where the main plug is will have a red wire. Go ahead and take that straight to your positive terminal lug there. The controller has a G, a B, and a Y on it for green, blue, and yellow. Go ahead and mount those up and coil your wires up and shove them in the box, and you're good to go. Throw your battery in, ready to rock. If you guys have any ideas for mods or any upgrades, anything that I could do better, go and shoot me a message. Let me know. I want to say thank you very much for purchasing the kit. I hope you guys really enjoy it.